Look, Tom, you really got to stop bringing these mice all around here. We're going to have a problem. Have to start burying bodies. It's going to get a plague around here. Going to be a problem. Oh, everybody's dead. All right.
Stanford University.
Put it in the book.
Variety of announcements.
So, what I'd like to begin with is somebody you probably heard from my class lectures before. We use him. I don't care. It's out there. It was a gorilla doing shit, and I had to fucking pay attention to it. Schizo. Mother. When you do this as a physics problem, you understand it as a physics STEM engineer, right? You operate inside of here. This became an example of a matrix. This matrix makes this simple. It gives me certain values to predict a certain value when I propose that hypothetical situation out on the board. Now, you will get into philosophy a little bit here for hypervigilance and what g equals the square root of m1, m2 is inside of here, which is why we need a person like this. This will be our standard model of gravity. We can make adjustments off of this line while trying to do this line. Not that that line is wrong. But given your operation being fucking schizo, you're... Professor Robert, human behaviorist. Okay, we are good. He's a professor now. Great.
Tomorrow, office hours are shifted because at 4:30 there's a really interesting lecture over at Clark.
Bipolar.
This guy is one of the experts on the whole notion.
The guy, I was watching Striptease do deplating gold off of jewelry last night as the chemistry inside of here, and that he had this old battery charger because he couldn't use the different old kinds, so it had to be he pegging that thing off, keep shorting out on. You got to put less in there more often on the cranks for the measurements of why the birdies go.
That there are brain metabolic abnormalities in
yeah.
humans, violent
You
criminals.
do.
He's got the distinction.
This is his class. The brown one. This one or this one? I haven't really decided yet. One of them might be one of the other computer programs. Probably going to be the other one. And we're going to use engineering as the physics engine because it'll give you some math. And if you're using that math, I can tell, given the neural net, this thing right here. I was in there and I saw that mouse banging around inside of here, and I was like, okay, it's blinkies. It's the ones and zeros, brain cancer right there.
Again, is not going to be videotaped,
Physics.
just audio tape.
You put him in an MRI, all this. But
over next year,
can you get him in the MRI? I mean, can you do physics well enough to really quantify? Well, I said schizo. That gets him in the MRI machine. You shoot this thing through here. They're gonna little pawn piece to the setup, and you're not as the student. We parallel, like I said. As soon as I stop inside of here, he's gonna start putting out the right answer. Perfect. Great. This multi-universe doesn't exist. Nor would I just sit here like a dumb shit and watch video with you.
And what we got to just on the edge of 2 days ago is to now begin to look at the genetic.
Well, you have to. They put this physics out there. This exists. If it didn't exist, I wouldn't have saw it nor brought it up for reference when I talk about people's dead ones and zeros that they're looking for inside of here. This shit. Well, this is a lock. If you didn't know how to use the screen much beyond the screen door inside of here, you're gonna have some people like me, Zuckerberg, this guy for schizo. You're gonna pop up in there. Maybe not him personally, but this fucking number that everybody's using for gravity in it. Say this word next to this word, and it goes off the damn rails. So you figure it out. You say that was the graph. You say this is the stone mill. It is undeniable fucking square wave inside of there for that case study right there. And that's schizo. Anytime you do not have that decision-making process, it is off the rails. Pin. Click. Come on in. No, dyslexia is the thing. I got it. You can do things, even spelling is like, I thought it was just a handwriting thing. Even on the computer, the B's and the D's, and he knows, like, I'm spelling B and I hit that fucking D. And I know I spell and a million times and I never get it wrong. My name, B in it every time, never problem. Same word, I've spelled a million goddamn times. Who am I talking to? This guy? Schizo or a whole matrix of people? Interesting. Brains, connections, energy, heat, light, sound. you would see something. A kid would answer an FMA question equally like if we could change the point of view. There's a where it's never Andromeda paradox is going to be that set. So you would say in psychology there is a frame of reference X, Y, and Z that equal general relativity. That is not negotiable in this classroom. It is the only thing, no matter what variation you have on it, that makes a difference. And that's the only thing that say you're acting. This is not only off -1, but it has a spectrum of off -1 that makes it here, because otherwise it's the entire range of spectrums, which is every matrix of what that could be when I made that interpretation. And somebody says, I thought. And thought was manic towards an idea where you have to do it. Have to do it. I have to process, simulate. They're going to bitch at me every second that I don't, and usually I tell the kid to do the same damn thing. And this became certain ideas because I have this. This is the syllabus where you actually have to explain that, break it down, bring up equations, pull up whatever's on the PowerPoint here, but it's not one equation that we're just going to look at carved into the stone wall. This thing's moving pretty fast because circuitry, engineering, every frame that we have to cover for as a basic lecture, you have to cover it in specs, you have to cover it in industrials, you have to, well, who's spec? Who? And is there anybody in here that checked the list? Hypervigilance is, when you get into this becomes a difficult topic, because which one do you want to lead with? This is his class. I would be sitting down like the damn bunny I am, picking up the very specific lecture that was here, because even though this would be the goal, I'd have to, all this dark matter to get here, and it's a timed equation, and if you kind of don't get there, you're going to deal with yourself being the dead on the limits of all that, which gets in the way in lots of different forms. Because it's a simulator kind of variable on the Wiggly Squiggly. They play the same way, and I can work that more efficiently, ones and zeros, to play it through that form. Well, get a secretary. Get some kid for what the price differential on that thing is there to pull off heat equation. Heat equation 1, 0, very schizo, birdies, demon. Sarge, I mean, you gotta be careful. Some guys got it, and that's fine, and it's a perfect number because it gives it the right vector. And other times they're gonna try to lock it, pocket, put it in your pocket. All right.
Speech. This family had severe problems with it. Classic looking for a genetic marker and eventually narrowing down to a gene itself, turning out to be this mysterious gene, FOXP2, which
the guy knows something he don't know.
A transcription factor and a mutation
Could you argue?
in this family.
My physics, and it's your physics, and if you could argue with your physics, then maybe. In any other decision, you fucking schizo, you bitchy little crying whine, and then you'll come over fucking hot as shit, bipolar, push through the keyhole. John, what are you doing in my office? I thought, yeah, it's a problem. It's always a problem.
More of a mixture of both, just to make things really confusing. What you see is,
they didn't figure out you, me, and the other guy were the important numbers to pass through information, and if to do so takes certain resistance. Probably going to pick up on them when you're trying, because he's a gorilla. Obviously, you can tell by the beard.
Facial prosody, that sort of stuff, motoric stuff, and the fact that it was found so heavily
Minesweeper.
expressed in there, it was part of what got
You can
people
tell.
to think what's fundamentally wrong with this family is motor aspects of language production. Again,
that's usually what I do. I try not to focus on it. And when I do, I'd say something. I would think, and it would. Time.
In the realm of language. So of course,
that incident was a schizo event. Therefore, physics. What was I thinking? Brain current. Did I eat that day? Is the ones and zeros over there? Is it?
Turns out that it is all over the place. You find FOXP2 in birds and mammals and.
Did one about a woodpecker the other day, smashing his face at like 4,000 G's against a piece of wood, and they're just designed lighter so it works. Evolution. And then you are there, and then how much of that shit you can take before you actually get a headache.
Importantly, a different version than you find in humans.
That's a different class. We're in it. All right. Where are we?
Which is to say, you see the same version.
I am this guy. I've watched this guy enough to know that that's what he's doing, very specifically, with certain people in a place that will go to certain places most commonly. I don't care. You come up to me with a brownie factory, we're going to output this class. Every time, it is the class. If not my job to run that rock, it is to figure out what the numbers on that situation are. So, if this is the reactor core and I am in the demon core and you are the nickel chromium system around me, guess what? Your ass is going to glow.
Ranging from apes to birds, everything in between, nothing has changed with that evolutionarily in a long, long time.
How long has writing been around?
What does it do?
3,000 years?
Handful of studies in animals where
30 generations really ain't that many.
it has been removed, where you now have mice that do not have the gene, and what you see is there's less vocal.
So there's a note about concussions, schizos. There's enough about it when it's like, well, we designed this not to do this. And so concussions with woodpeckers, because it was right in the same conversation, right? So woodpeckers evolved to take more concussions, and these people evolved to not do that and have a function that does, but they kind of would lose something with the small elephants in some jungle that some emperor threw off in there, but they didn't need it. They had a good relationship for lots of years, though, and it was probably sensible to breed down the dwarf Dumbo there for safety reasons, for control reasons. And so, it's like big animal, you'd think, oh, elephant. Well, you actually get sunburnt. They like to roll around in the mud and use math. The ones and zeros, they'd figure it out if it was fucking mud they threw.
Vocalization and simpler vocalization. And that's back to our whole world of
Yeah.
sonic vocalizations that you can't hear when mice are giggling and that sort of
We got
thing.
nothing.
Knock
We got
out
an old
the
tire. Don't you
speech
make shoes out of that. Watch some Indian on a video.
there's less complexity to it.
Oh, fuck is that music coming from? And who is singing it all the time?
And it's expressed in motoric parts of the brain, preferentially in these other species.
Bells are banging.
So
You hear it?
the super
Cling,
conserved
cling,
version of
cling.
this gene, everybody else has the same version, and then you look at the human version, and there's a bunch of differences, and they emerged very recently.
Somebody
Best
be quiet. I'm
estimates
trying to
are
listen.
The last couple of 100,000 years, each one of the changes extremely positively selected for whatever this gene is about.
Just in a
once it
simulator.
sort of went on the human path, it
That
changed
psychologist is
real
fucked
fast.
sideways because I'm going to use that. That's like, oh, yeah, and if you don't quit kicking right now so I can show you how to do this, we never have this question conversation again.
Next interesting thing about it.
You can hear me.
insofar
Our drill
as
sergeant is
the
always fucking with you.
transcription factor, when you look at the genes
And then they
that
train that.
regulates,
Like,
this is
right
now
through this
taking
brain
our
neuron to the
further
next one.
our old
And it
genetic
worked.
network
Damn if it
field.
didn't.
When you look downstream, what genes it regulates, they tend
Where's
to
this guy
be
standing?
fairly differentiated
Seem like
from
safe
other
place?
primates and to have differentiated as a result of
You'd
positive
be wishing you
selection.
work in the field.
So
Hey,
this
get
is
the
a
fuck
whole
off of my
cluster
property.
genes that evolution was doing some pretty stringent things on in hominids in the last couple of 100,000 years. Now, what you do is
Lamb to
with
kelp.
all-time cool studies, which was last
Bunnies in the field.
take
Bunnies on the
mice
farm.
and you
Why would
weed
you
out
think that
their
there's a difference
FOXP2
between those two math problems? G equals the square root of M1, M2 over R1. Acceleration, deceleration.
What happens
What's the
is
difference?
once these
F equals MA. And acceleration, it's just a piece. Deceleration isn't even a piece in terms of the derivative over here on A, U, AX, AV, AW. So if it's silver or gold, better conductor, less oxidation on certain parts of the chip that over time get observations like IH. Be schizo as fuck. But hypervigilance right around the corner. Stay with it. Get the classroom. Get to lock those things in there. Get up in here.
people were listening, what you wind up seeing is
You'll be writing a lot.
probably
Couple
the
bucks.
People probably are working on it, and that's going to be the end of life as we know it when they let those ones loose. What you get when you overexpress, when you express the human FOXP2 in the mouse is
What are you supposed to think when you walk into a recruiter station and they say AR670-1?
a mouse with more vocalizations and more complex ones.
Gonna hurt. Gonna hurt you later. You don't understand Sharp's case, especially if it's on your case. I mean, there was a time in physics where the ball went through a thing. If they arrested them because it was a marijuana charge or anything else, and you say the reactor in which the elements of what you say you do, where the front is on the war for what numbers pop up inside here when they tell you drill sergeant's always fucking with you talking about that frame over there, you're supposed to know. and the college teacher's going to grind your ass into the ground very politely, and just being abusive here, just going to say, oh, well, these numbers are basically whatever the fuck it is you want them to be, but there is a product rule to it. If you follow that product rule, because it's a very verbatim song, Beethoven, general relativity, Z limit, on the elevator or pain train or whatever axiom you're doing it, I want to take time and I want to take space. I want to just cubically model space. This area, I put a drama in there, I put a particle in there. There it is. It's over here now. I got a different angle of it. I can do all that stuff with it. Yeah, which methodology for the tone comes up is going to be relative. If it was most important by a time dilation factor of utilitarianism, what you're... You heard it. Now you're going to use it when you saw it was like that was one of them. Well, throw it in a marshmallow and bring it to the desk. I'll grade you on that by what you thought you actually knew on that. If you bring me one page, there's nothing wrong with an equation. Show me. I'd be wrong to judge you to say one word is wrong, because what would you think outside of physics if you were here?
More evidence for genetic components to language.
For the moment, number 60-40, which is of options.
Lots of different places on the globe. So you get some circumstance where a whole bunch of people